Finding Freedom: Harry and Meghan and the Making of a Modern Royal Family by Omid Scobie and Carolyn Durand. This is Omid Scobie. Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Prologue. It was a blink-and-you'll-miss-it moment. As we watched Meghan smooth the belt of her crisp white line-the-label coat and brush a loose lock of hair out of her eyes, she looked over at a nervous Harry and put her hand on his back, rubbing the same spot several times. He was used to being in front of the press, but this time was different. He wasn't advocating for one of his charities or urging leaders to take climate change seriously. He was sharing something personal. The news of his engagement to Meghan. Holding hands, they made their way to the throng of photographers waiting nearby. "You've got this," she whispered to the prince as they walked out of a small gate at the side of Kensington Palace and up the long, canopied path to the sunken garden, whose lily-covered water in the ornamental pond and colourful pansies, tulips and begonias made it one of Princess Diana's favourite spots on the estate she once called home. This was the couple's big engagement photo call, at which I had arrived with only minutes to spare after a frantic highway dash from a long weekend break in Oxfordshire. Carolyn, ahead of me, was already in her place with a small huddle of royal correspondents who worked directly with the royal households on a daily basis. As long-time members of this group, she and I receive intel as we shadow senior members of the British royal family at home and abroad. The privilege of covering the royals so closely is that you're front and centre for those landmark moments in their lives. We were on the steps of the Lindo wing when George, Charlotte, and Louis each were born. It's easy to take for granted these moments, which will one day be part of the history books. But as Harry grinned at Meghan, who held his hand between both of hers, and the cheers of well-wishers gathered in Kensington Garden erupted into a hip hip hooray, even the most hard-nosed reporters there smiled. The feeling of magic in that moment was undeniable. Carolyn and I have closely followed the work of the royal family since long before Meghan joined what is known as the firm. For years we've travelled with William, Kate and Harry around the world, from Singapore to the Solomon Islands, Lesotho to India, the United States to New Zealand. We shared the same planes and dizzying itineraries as these young royals. I've always likened royal tours to a class field trip or camp because you're cramped together on big buses and clamouring to get the best rooms at the hotel. There's also a sense of camaraderie, not just among the reporters, staff and security guards, but also with the royals themselves. Take the time I lost my passport in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I was frantically searching my bag at the airport when I got a call from one of the palace aides. I could hear Harry's distinctive laugh in the background. They had found my passport on the floor. Not wanting to leave me high and dry in Brazil, the prince sent over one of his protection officers, passport in hand, to my terminal so I could get to Chile on time. The next time I saw Harry, however, he forwent my name, instead calling me Passport. As we Brits say, he likes to take the mickey. Being far from the scrutiny and pressures of home was also an opportunity for heart-to-hearts. On that same trip, Harry confessed to me at a small drinks gathering at our hotel that he really wished he were just a normal guy who could pack up and spend a year in Brazil pursuing his own passions. He said that he hated smartphones being constantly thrust in his face, that the thrum of professional camera shutters going off sometimes made him feel physically ill. Carolyn and I always knew Harry dreamed of a life away from palace walls. But while travelling with the prince, particularly in the countryside, we noticed that his wish to be connected to everyday rural life was often accompanied by a sense of sadness. Although an impossibility, he wished to connect with the locals without the fuss his arrival always meant. Then, as now, Harry deeply craves normalcy of the kind his mother, Diana, tried to replicate for him on trips to amusement parks and McDonald's. How funny to know that the favourite part...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?